Hello Leute, happy Sunday. I just finished editing my previous vlog and it's currently downloading, so that is like my one adult responsibility of the day, which means we can focus on the tomfoolery. But at the top of the vlog, I just wanted to introduce you to the current read. I started last night Faith Taking Flight. This is a YA book. I'm on page 130 out of about 330. And this is not what I was expecting it to be. So the whole prologue of this book is about the main character, Faith. She's from Minnesota. Over a summer where she's lonely because her two best friends are out of town, she kind of gets lured into this program where they take teenagers and give them powers, and then it cuts off, and then the whole first half of this book has just been all about her day-to-day life afterward, which really doesn't mention what happened to her other than little glimpses. In her day-to-day life, she's a senior in high school, really obsessed with this TV show, and she has a whole blog about it, and ends up meeting one of the actresses in the show at like their local state fair because they're gonna start filming the show in her town. So I like the book. Julie Murphy's writing style is genuinely really fun and easy to read, but the two main issues I'm having with it are, one, I thought this would be about like superhero-y things and it's just super sidelined right now, and I don't like how it was introduced, like it was forced upon her, and I don't know, it's kind of weird. And two, I'm not a fan of fandom books or like celebrity dating kind of things, so it's a bit far-fetched because of that. It's like, oh, I guarantee if this actress knew this character was like a fan blogger, she wouldn't be like, you should come to this party and you come over and come do this. Like, I'm just having to suspend my disbelief, which on some level I knew I would because it's YA. I know it's not my favorite genre anymore, so I'm giving it some grace. That's not gonna scratch every itch that I have now that I'm 10 years older than the target demographic for this, but I mean, it's enjoyable. I read 100 pages of it in one sitting last night, so I think once my lunch is done, I have the rest of the day to focus on this. I'm sure I could knock the rest of this out in like 3 hours. Right now, this is heading toward 3 stars, but I think the element that brings up her superhero-ness again is there's like these weird, unexplained things happening in her town where like dogs are going missing and homeless people are going missing. So I just hope she steps into her power, and maybe this book is gearing up toward that because I know there's also a sequel. I don't know if it's about her or if it's a spinoff, but there is a sequel. My library doesn't have it, but it's on the ebook library, so I might get it from there depending on how much I like or dislike this one. So yeah, I started off this readathon very strong with a 5-star book, and I don't know that it's gonna be that easy to match how good that book was. This is gonna be my focus for the day, and then we'll see afterward how we like it enough to continue. Oh, hi Jason! It's almost 5 o'clock and I still haven't started reading. I can barely talk, I just had a snow cone. My mouth is so cold. I'm not absolutely feeling this book, but I do want to finish it, so I'm gonna sit here and crank it out.
3 days later.
Hi y'all. I'm just getting home from Shelby's house. Oh my gosh, have I been crying? I saw a TikTok earlier that made me giggle. I brought my vlog camera to Shelby's but didn't record anything, and I feel like my clips have been getting repetitive inside my apartment sitting on the couch, so change of scenery. This is my car. Don't look at my apartment complex behind me. So last night I finally finished Faith Taking Flight. Literally I was on the last 20 pages and it took me like 2 pages to want to read the last 20 pages. So it's over with. I don't think I'm going to continue and read book 2. I realized I never actually gave a full review for this book in detail, so here's the reason why I struggled to get through the end of it. Basically, there were so many things going on at once that didn't really fall together. The main character has this magical power that she's been given, but she doesn't really know how to use it or why she has it or who the person who gave it to it is. All this weird drama with how she got the powers and how she's not even using it now. Friends at school are going missing and acting weird, and you don't know if they're a good person or a bad person. There's this girl that's in town filming a TV show that's her favorite show of all time. So she's like hanging out with her and dealing with the jealousy from her previous friend group. Which, side note, this book has a sapphic relationship because of her, but she's also one of those characters that flip-flops between being a good person and a bad person. And I don't know if I even want to call this sapphic representation because it was so weird. Okay, yes, this book has sapphic representation, but I don't know that I would call her, like, the love interest. I don't know. It was strange. But anyway, then there was also, like, her grandma developing dementia and all these dogs in the town going missing. Again, just so many plot elements that did not come together in a nice way. It was weird. So I decided maybe next I should read the group book. The thing that I realized about the group book is that it's book 3 in a series, and everyone and their mother says that the second book in this series is the best one. I DNF'd the first book, and I want to give it my best shot, so I went and picked up from the library the second book in this series. So this is about a actor named Alex, who's like the problematic media child who's getting into some drama. And so to keep him in line while he's finishing up this TV show that he's filming, they hire a woman to basically like babysit him while he's on set, maybe even off set, to make sure he doesn't get into trouble. I don't know if that's a real thing you do in Hollywood, but okay. I'm assuming this is the main couple, so there's them. This falls into the category of romance where it's like a 400-page book with small font, and I'm like, how much do you have to say realistically? How much of this was necessary? However, I did start it last night. I'm on page 4, and I like the writing so far, so I'm a little bit more hopeful about this. I also read book 1 during the pandemic. I don't know if I've talked about this, but I had a phase during the pandemic where I just did not like anything that I read, especially romance. I think because I was super cynical during the time and like couldn't enjoy anything, and I was sad, and the books I was reading were making me sadder. Like, it was not a distraction for me during the pandemic, unfortunately. So I might have just hated book 1 for no reason, but also I trust my instinct that I don't like fandom books, and it was just lame. So hopefully book 2 just does a 180 and it's so much better. But I don't believe any of that was in focus, and my mascara is everywhere, so hope you enjoyed that little change of pace clip. Just now I was so close to like collapsing in bed with my book and a dessert and just rotting horizontally, and I told myself, you have something you need to vlog about, you have panties that you need to fold. I'm gonna multitask real quick and put my panties away. But I forgot to talk about like one thing about Faith taking flight that really impacted my read of it, and I didn't remember earlier. Hi, Gordo. Is it the panty raid? Anyway, I was struggling to get through the end of Faith Taking Flight, but then I got to the acknowledgements and it was like, thank you to the creators of Faith. And I had seen a comment on my last blog where someone was like, oh yeah, I read the comics of those. And I was like, the comic? And I'm realizing this is not her original character or story. This is a character in this other graphic novel series that she has now adapted. So like the whole backstory that I didn't understand is because it was written by a man. Just kidding. She was basically just recapping it or like doing a spin-off of it to add more details in. I just feel so validated that I'm like, okay, at least she didn't just like write a super sucky book. Like, yeah, the plot wasn't great, but I feel like she deserves a pass because she was trying to work within the confines of someone else's like predestined storyline for this character. I still wouldn't recommend the book. It's not that great, but now I'm wondering, is the graphic novel good? Because that might change something. My library doesn't have it, and I think it was published in 1994. Honestly, I don't really enjoy superhero graphic novels with like that super cartoony style, but it's kind of a relief to find out that this was an adaptation, because now I feel a lot less bad being like, ew, this book was bad. It feels like I read one of those like Disney spin-off books that's written about one of the movies, like a tie-in edition. Genuinely, I don't know that I would have read this book if I knew that it was just a spin-off of a comic. And am I the only one that had never heard of that until now? Is this news to anyone else? So my library does have the second one, and honestly, I requested like 7 more books from the library just now. I obviously am not going to read all of these plus-size books by the end of July, let's be completely honest with ourselves, especially because the book I just started is like 400 pages. It's gonna take me like a week to read that alone. There's so many books that I found out about through my library, and I definitely want to get them to just like talk through them and give you some recommendations, and then hopefully my library will see that people are interested in plus size books, so they'll order more. Okay, my camera's flashing at me, but I'm done folding my panties. I need to go hop in the shower and then go to bed early tonight. I don't remember when the last time I recorded is, but I don't know if you can tell from everything about me. I am sick. I have ill-placed my motivation in completing All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I was like kind of enjoying it at the beginning, and I was like, I'm gonna push through it because it's kind of good but kind of not. It's whatever, it'll be like a 3-star book. I can be a big girl and finish a book. I'm like 40% through, and I read for like 2 hours last night, and I'm sitting here like, if I'm halfway through, I might as well just make it all the way through. But I don't think I can do another page of it. Because you know how once you get the ick on something, you can't un-ick it? I have the ick. I just do not like this author's writing style. Everything is so overwritten. This is one of those romance books that's like 400 pages, and every line of dialogue the characters have is so overwritten. The guy's like a 38-year-old man, and I'm trying to stay sensitive with insulting him because like his character trait is that he has ADHD, which she kind of makes it his entire personality in this book, and I don't want to just outright be like, he's so annoying, because ableist. But he does not act or behave like a 38-year-old man. Like if this main character was Steve-O, maybe. But his dialogue is so annoying. He's just like, behaves like a teenager. He calls the main character ugly in his head all the time. When this book has serious moments, that's when it's the best. Like when he can get down to earth and be like protective of her and be serious with her, I'm like, oh, work, he's sexy. But any other time in the book, I'm like, you're a child and this is a joke and you're annoying. The only thing that kept this book afloat is that the main character is like really steadfast and like no humor, no laughs, which I thought was refreshing because typically it's like Grumpy versus Sunshine, is the man is the grumpy and the woman's the sunshine. So I like that this flipped it upside down. But I just can't take another scene of him writing fan fiction about his own character, which I thought wouldn't be in this book, and I was lied to.
I never spoke to you about this book.
Shelby lied to me. I knew it would be cringy from the title. The title is so cringy. Genuinely, I think if I finished it, it'd be like a 3-star book, and I think it'll get good toward the ending, because if there's more scenes that bring in like his serious side, that'd be good. And like once we get to the part of the book where he becomes more accepting of her body, because literally every single line he's like, oh my god, did I just catch myself looking at her ass? That was weird. Oh my god, why was I looking at her ass? She's not even that pretty. This is not giving me a good taste in my mouth to read the third one, which is the group book, which I hope I don't also DNF, because that means I will have DNF'd every book in this series, no matter how hard I try. So, I'm going to start a book before reading the third one, and I know what I want to read, and if I DNF this one because it's annoying, at this point we will be calling it the Fatphobic Readathon, because I can't enjoy a book for the life of me. I'm going to start Act Your Age Brown. Act Your Age Eve Brown, because I've liked Talia's other books. They're not like 5 stars, but I feel like this one will be an improvement.
The irony, though?
The what now?
Your complaint is like, this character isn't acting his age, I don't like it. Anyway, I'm gonna read Act Your Age Eve Brown.
Yes, because women can get away with anything, but not men. Women are allowed to be little girl children. Men are not allowed to act like boys. Written by a woman? You're calling a man written by a woman calling a woman ugly? Embarrassing.
I remember him calling her ugly.
I will pull out the receipts! He's like, the only thing appealing about her is her eye color. And he's like, oh, her little beak hook nose, little bird looking like bitch. Every single chapter he calls her a bird.
I do remember that.
Oh, I'm sure that there's something to say about like ugly women representation. I'm here for that. But oh my god, it's every single scene. I'm gonna start that book. I'm gonna give it like an hour, and if I hate it, I'm just gonna come back on and try something new. Because at this point, I have so much on my TBR. I didn't even haul the library books that I got. I went back to the library and I got more books with that character, so I have double the TBR stack if I just need to plow through things and just hate them and start something new, because I guess I'm in a hater mood this week, or Olivia has just soured me, but also I'm sick, so I'm sensitive. I'm a little delicate flower who needs tending. I mean, I could tell y'all about the book I read last night on Kindle Unlimited about, not even on Kindle Unlimited, here's how bad it was, Scribbed.
Oh.
I read a book about a plus-size girl who is an Omega in a kingdom and her brother dies, and the trauma of that had like put off her heats for a couple of years, but now it's been like enough time where she's processed it that her heats are gonna start coming back, and she's like, I have to choose an alpha before my next heat, otherwise they'll just like break into my house and I won't be able to choose. And so this monster in the woods has been like following her, and he starts like leaving her mushrooms and presents, but he's like, but I'm a monster, she'll never love me, and so he's like staying in the shadows, but then her neighbor keeps bugging her and her heat is getting closer, and so finally, long story short, monster romance Omega fat.
You only mentioned the mushrooms. That's kind of cute.
That's what I'm saying! Cause why was this book a lot better than what I'm reading, and it's a 78 book monster porn novella? I mean, did I choose my Skyrim character based on the fact that he was like a sexy cat man? Yes. I can start this now, but this is another one of those romance books that I'm like, does it need to have this many pages? That is too much plot. 360, wrap it up. I have options, and they're all blue. Why is every book about a fat girl blue? Because we're sad? Because we're so sad we're fat? I'm just salty.
Whales.
Because we're whales! One of these days I'll read a good book. That's the moral of the story. I'll talk to you later. When will this woman be jailed? I have you on my couch where I normally sit to play Skyrim. This is like POV if you were my TV watching me play Skyrim. All weekend, I've been hacking up a lung. I have no other symptoms. It's just like a tickly throat and a cough. It's no fun. And when I'm sick, I don't feel like reading. I feel like going on TikTok. So that's kind of what I did. But small reading update before I do a little bit of a library haul. I did get 132 pages into Act Your Age, Eve Brown. The thing that worries me about this book is I'm not quite sure that she's even plus size. Like, it described her as big once, and she's like a little bit chunky on the cover of the book, but it hasn't talked about her being like definitively fat, so that I might have just snuck this in on the side. Maybe it doesn't count. But it's pretty good. I don't think I gave a synopsis earlier because I didn't even read what it was about. But it's about this woman named Eve who she's like 26 and has flitted through a couple of career options and hasn't really settled on anything. Her parents say they're gonna stop her trust fund payments that she gets to survive because she doesn't have a stable career until she finds a real job. I think a lot of people would be able to relate to this because it's like you're in your 20s still living at home, not sure what you want to do with your life. She's just taking a long drive to process that and stumbles across like a small little town with a bed and breakfast looking for a new chef. She goes to interview. The owner is very attractive, curmudgeon-y guy who hates everyone and is very strict on his routine because he's autistic. So he struggles to let people in onto his life and into his staff. But Eve is kind of like a whirlwind that has taken over. So hell breaks loose and she accidentally hits the guy with her car. So it's just about her getting hired at this B&B. She's helping him out there and he's recovering and he's sexy and she's sexy, so they're gonna do sexy people things together. I'm like a third of the way in and I'm liking it. I'm not loving it, but it's good. I have so many books in my TBR. This is kind of stupid, but I was able to find more at the library. These are all either YA or middle grade. First, I didn't realize my library had this. I feel like I looked for it and didn't see it, but I got the sequel to Faith Taking Flight, which I didn't like, but I also have faith that maybe it was just because the first one was a setup book. I just wanted to give this one a shot, and if not, I feel like I'm just giving the library brownie points and showing them, hey, there are people interested in fat books. This book sounds so freaking cute and I haven't read a book like it in a while. This one's called Starfish by Lisa Phipps. It's a middle grade book about a girl who's overweight and it says this book confronts fat phobia. Obviously it's summertime, she's in the pool, she's in a swimming suit. It's just about this girl who gets bullied, how she deals with haters and strengthens her self-image. And this book is in verse. I love this. So I think I'm gonna read this during the readathon just because it's something quick, which I know is kind of a cop-out, but how perfect. I mean, come on. I also found this, which I believe the host of the readathon, Lexi, has this on her TBR. I could be wrong, but this one is called Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. I think this is a Brazilian author. I don't know if this is translated from Portuguese or if he writes in English. The main character is Felipe, who lives next door to this boy he's had a crush on for forever, and that guy ends up having to stay at his apartment the entire duration of, I think, a winter break. And Felipe is plus sized and deals with some insecurity about that, so it's all about close proximity to this guy he's in love with and feeling self-conscious, but also having an opportunity to get closer with him. So it sounds super cute. The next book I saw, I'd never heard of this one, but it looks so cool. It's called The Bridge. This one's by Bill Koenigsberg. This is about a girl and a guy, Aaron and Tilly, who both go to the Washington the George Washington Bridge to both contemplate jumping at the same time. They're both suicidal, so obviously trigger warning for that kind of thing. This feels like more of a mental health book than a plus size book, and obviously this one's a lot heavier than the other ones I've been showing. It doesn't specifically say in the synopsis that one of them is fat, so I don't think they're contemplating suicide because of their fatness, but it could definitely be a component. Hopefully this wasn't mislabeled and it has nothing to do with plus size, but this just sounded really interesting. I also found this middle grade book called The Second Life of Abigail Walker. It's about a girl who's bigger than everyone else her age, so she's really self-conscious about that and feels like she doesn't do anything right. But there's a magical element to this where she meets like a fox friend who leads her to this, I don't know if it's an alternate universe or what's going on, but she just meets other people on the other side and she gets to help them out. It helps her with her body image and growing confidence and things like that. It was just really, it's like a little pocket hardback. I love middle grade books about fat acceptance because that is what your girl needed. So possible book on my horizons there as well. In this last book, I will not be perceived, ridiculed, or accosted. Nobody play back the clip of me saying I would never read this, but I did some further research into The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. I know earlier in this vlog series I was like, I'm not gonna read a fantasy book that came out in 2013, be so serious. And I'm sure if you go through the archives of my channel, I probably even owned this in like 2012 or 2013. I'm pretty sure the library has also owned it, because I have to show you the the color of these pages versus a newer one. I was convinced I wasn't gonna like this just because I'm nervous that it will have old school fantasy generic tropiness all throughout it. But I went and looked at the Goodreads reviews because it was showing up on so many lists about plus size main characters, especially because it's so slim pickings in fantasy. I was expecting this to be a lot of positive reviews from people like in 2014, back when they first read it, but people have been rereading this and reading it recently and giving it like 4 and 5 stars and saying continues to be one of the best books. So it renewed my hope. I think it's a trilogy, which doesn't excite me. But honestly, I flipped to the first page of this and started reading it, and I remembered like trying to read this as a teenager and never really getting into it. I kind of could remember how it starts, so hopefully I'll just get further into it this time, and hopefully I will agree with the numbers of people saying that it's an instant classic and it's worth picking up. It stands the test of time. Okay, well, I hate ending vlogs in the middle of books, but it is Monday, which means I'm overdue on editing this vlog, let alone posting it. So I think this is where I'll leave you off. There may not even be a week 3 vlog depending on how I'm feeling, because if I'm sick I might not want to read, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you everyone for joining once again. Let me know if you've read anything lately that is worth mentioning, or if you're participating, what you've been enjoying. I will see you all next time. Thank you for joining in. Bye.